You're right, everyone, this is BronyDan here. Now, if you're wondering about the get-up I'm wearing, this is just something I'm going to try and do, and if it doesn't work, I'll just do basic clothing. But for anyone who knows me will tell you that I love Doctor Who. It is probably my favourite franchise of all time, and I've just been thinking of trying to do these unscripted videos talking about particular stories, you know, what I like and what I don't like about them. Just basically like those type of reviews. And what better story to start this review series off but with this, the Macra Terror, the animated reconstruction of the Macra Terror that was released on the 25th of March 2019. Quite a fitting day, actually, when you think about it, since the 25th of March, that would have been Patrick Troughton's 99th birthday. And obviously, as you can see, yes, I have flipped the DVD sleeve around so that it now has the more classic and traditional Doctor Who classic range cover, so that it can now sit nicely and comfortably with the rest of my DVD collection, as opposed to sticking out like a sore thumb with the pretty bland and shitty looking Series 11 style. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Macra Terror is one of the, what I like to call the Sacred 10 of Doctor Who, in that it is one of the 10 stories that is just completely missing. There are no, like it has no surviving episodes to it. All 4 episodes are, at this moment, still currently missing. We just have the audio, or at least we did just have the audio. But with this DVD release, they have completely reanimated all 4 lost episodes. They did this in 2016 with Power of the Daleks, and I'm guessing because that had proved to be a success, they decided to do the same with the Macra Terror, which I think is quite an interesting story to choose to follow on from Power of the Daleks. But, like I've said, I've watched it, I've heard about the Macra Terror, and yeah, I think it is a pretty good story. So the story takes place immediately after the events of the Moon Base, so this is in Season 4, and it basically involves the Doctor and his companions. At this point, he's travelling with Ben, Polly, and Jamie, and they arrive on this human colony in some point in the distant future, and it's a pretty lovely place. Everybody's happy, it's all, you know, it's all smiles, everyone loves to work. However, there is a uncomfortable edge surrounding it. It's very Big Brother, this colony. Like, you have, like, somebody who calls himself the Controller, who appears on the screens, and everybody follows the will of the Controller, and it turns out that apparently they're mining for this gas that supposedly is what fuels the colony, only to discover that the gas that they are mining from the planet is in fact for these giant crabs called the Macra. Of course, if you've seen the story Gridlock from Series 3, you'll be familiar with the Macra, but there's a difference here. The Macra in this story are completely different from the ones that we see in Gridlock, in that they are actually kind of intelligent creatures. They are, you know, the fact that they can, you know, they are able to talk, actually. I think one of them, the big Macra that's in charge of everything, that one can talk, and it is posing as the Controller to convince the colonists to, like I said, it mines the gas. It's basically a story about brainwashing and like cults and all that, because there's a really creepy moment in episode 2, I believe it. Yeah, it's episode 2, where like you have them in the you know, with the quarters, and basically you learn that everybody is just subliminally mind controlled by these thoughts and words from the Macra, saying, you know, you must work, it is good to work, and you know, you will obey your controller, you will do this, it's for the good of the colony, you know. If anyone's talking about these things called the Macra, they don't exist. It's a really creepy, it's a creepy idea that, was it Ian's, I think Ian Stewart Black wrote this story. He also wrote, The Savages and War Machines for William Hartnell's stories, for William Hartnell back in season 3, and it is, honestly, I think this is the best, this is his best story. It's kind of a shame he didn't write any more. The characters as well who are in the colony are, I think they're okay. I wouldn't say they're the most memorable of characters from a Troughton story. I think that's one of the down problems I have with it, is that, you know, like, it's the only character who I think sort of stands out is Medoc, who is sort of like the character we see at the beginning of the story, who's like, he's the one who has seen the Macra, and he has been, you know, he's been labelled as a violent criminal because he's been spreading these rumours about the Macra, saying because he has actually seen them and he keeps escaping from the authorities because they keep trying to brainwash him into being subservient to them, and of course he doesn't, and you know, and of course he ends up, you know, with the Doctor and Polly and Jamie. He ends up with them in the mines where they do the most dangerous jobs of getting the gas for the Macra. The other characters that are only of any significance to the story are the pilot, who is just sort of like, he's like the head of the colony. He's okay, and Ola, who is like the head of security, he's a, I don't know why, again, he's a odd character. Well, I would say he's odd, but he is a character who is very, you know, I think he's like one of the most serious about the controlling of the colony. He's the one who, you know, he's the head of security. He, you know, like, and he's the one who does all the police work for the colony, you know, trying to get Medoc. He keeps imprisoning, like, the Doctor and his companions. And at the end of the story, when, like, he doesn't really get much of a comeuppance. You don't even see him in the final scene of the story, because, like, towards the end of the story, when, you know, the Doctor has convinced the pilot that the Macra exist, and they're trying to think of a way to destroy the Macra, all you get is the controller who just comes up on the screen and says, you know, Ola is now controller, and that's kind of the last time we see Ola. And, like I said, he doesn't get, like, a comeuppance. We don't see him again in the final scene, or at least he doesn't in the animated version. I'm not sure. Like, again, I don't know if he appears in the obviously, because we can't tell, because the episode no longer exists. But I just feel it was kind of weird how, you know, the minute he gets promoted to pilot of this colony, he doesn't really get any kind of comeuppance for, you know, trying to betray the pilot and kill him. I think this story is really the story where Jamie starts to come into his own as a character. Now, of course, for those of you who aren't familiar with Jamie's introduction in the series, he was only supposed to be in The Highlanders, which was Patrick Troughton's second story. Like, he was only meant to be in that story, but for reasons that they felt that Jamie was quite a popular character, they changed the ending of that story so that he would go into the TARDIS with the Doctor, Ben and Polly, and become a regular companion. But the problem they had was that some of the stories that had been written after the Highlanders, like the Underwater Menace and the Moon Base, those had all been written and edited before the decision to make Jamie a companion had been finalised. So in certain spots they had to give Jamie some of Ben's lines, and for like the moon base, of course, they couldn't think of what to do with him really, so they had him just be unconscious for it. But for the Macra Terror, I think you can sort of get the indication that they were trying to see if Jamie could work on his own without having to rely on having to steal Ben's dialogue, because obviously in this story, Ben is the only one of the companions who gets, you know, brainwashed, and he falls under the influence of the Macra, and you know, Jamie is the one character who does a lot of his own stuff in the way. Like he is the one who sort of realizes that something is not right with the colony. He's the one who manages to escape from the mines. He's the one who goes through the shaft, gets involved with the Macra, and then of course he has the ridiculously funny scene doing the Highland Fling, which I'm glad they kept that, because it is just a funny. See, why'd you go to the Highland Fling? Because we fling ourselves out the door. It's one of the best escape plans, I think, ever. But, like I said, Jamie in this story, he really, like, again, he works well on his own. And I'm not just saying that because Jamie is my favourite companion in all of Doctor Who. He really is written well, and you do really get the sense in this story that they are sort of thinking of getting rid of Ben, which is a shame because, you know, Ben's not one of my favourite companions, but, you know, I think Michael Craze did a good job with what he was given, and it is kind of a shame how he slowly, with the introduction of Jamie at this point, he slowly is getting phased out. But of course, we have to talk about the animation that's done for this story. This was done by the same people who did the animation for Power of the Daleks and for Shada, I think. And you can tell there's been a massive improvement. The animation on the characters is much more fluent. There's a bit more movement to it, as opposed to like Power of the Daleks, where even though I thought it was fine. I can still watch Power of the Daleks and enjoy it. But the characters are a bit stiff. They don't move as much. There were a few more animation errors in Power. With this one, I don't think there was. Like, again, the characters move a bit more fluently than they did in Power. You can see that they have managed to improve it. I'm not sure whether it was just because with Power they were really on a tight schedule. They had to have it finished by the time they got to the 50th anniversary of Power of the Daleks' first airing. I'm not sure whether that was the reason why the animation... Like, I think that may have been the reason why the animation is so, like, stiff as it was. But for this one, I didn't really see as many flaws. And I think what works well for animation, especially with these type of stories, is that the animators are allowed to showcase what I think the original production team wanted to see. I mean, like, again, going back to Power of the Daleks, the famous scene from episode 4, where you've got the Dalek conveyor belt, and you've got like this room that's meant to be full of Daleks, you know, chanting the famous, you know, like, we are the new race of Daleks, all that, and you look and you watch it back, and it is just, they've only got 4 working Daleks, and in the background it's just cardboard cutouts that don't really move. But with the animation, of course, they can actually show all those hundreds of Daleks all moving, and it looks really great. And it's the same thing with here, in that you can actually see more than one Macra, because obviously because of the budget reasons, they could only afford to make one giant Macra prop, and it wasn't like, I wouldn't say it was the best monster they could have used. Again, like, it looks like, from what we've seen in the pictures, it looks creepy, but it was limited in its movement. The claws, like it was kind of like in Ed Wood, in an Ed Wood movie where like they're doing all the movements with as the claw is holding on to them, and and they're the ones who are moving, and they have to look like it's a struggle. But with the animation, they really, I think the Macra do look really creepy in this, like in this version. It's like they kind of remind me of like Shelob from Return of the King. I mean, like in some sort of where they got like just that mouth that, you know, it looks creepy, and their movements as well. It's very spider-like. It's not crab, like again, it isn't crab-like. It's really, they're kind of like spiders, because I know like in the original script, like again, the original script ideas, they were described as like, they were supposed to be like spiders, an insect creature, like, or like a parasite. But the animation actually shows that sort of unnatural creep, like unnatural spider quality, and the claws as well. I think they make them much bigger than they were in the original story, because obviously that scene where, from the surviving footage that we know of, where Polly gets caught by the Macra, and it looks like, again, it looks a bit iffy because the claw, it just has her by the leg, and she's the one trying to struggle. In the animation, though, you actually see the claw, the Macra's so massive, it can actually picks her up. And it is really a well done piece of animation. I mean, the 3D, because you got the 2D animation for like the humans, and you got the 3D for the Macra, and it looks really well done. Bottom line, I like the Macra Terror. Like, Macra Terror has always been one of those stories that everybody talks about, even because from listening to the audio, it sounds really good and really creepy, and I think the animation manages to pull that off. And I'm saying that specifically because I'm not sure whether people will think of me when I say it, but I only watched the black and white version, because this DVD has two versions. It has a colour version that's supposed to be the official version, and you have a black and white version on disc 2. I chose to watch the black and white version specifically because it's a Patrick Troughton story. Troughton stories were made in black and white, they were seen in black and white, so therefore it should only be shown in black and white. That was my reason for watching it in black and white. I don't know if I'll ever watch the colour version, because I think in being in colour, it takes away the sort of creepiness, because a lot of it, especially in episode 3, is all in like the shafts, and and it's all dark shadows, and you just got to see like the outlines of Macra, and it looks I think again, it's one of those cases where in black and white, it looks better than it does in colour. Do I think that looking at this, we may see some more animation reconstructions in the future? I honestly hope so, and from what I've seen on the DVD, I'm going to take a wild guess and say that they're going to try and do the Wheel in Space, because there's a bonus feature on the disc where you get like a 10-minute piece of animation from episode 1 of the Wheel in Space, where it's between the Doctor and Jamie on board the space freighter that's going to the wheel. But like I said, it's a bonus thing. It's not an official. It isn't officially for the Wheel in Space, because obviously they use the models, the body shape, the bodies from the Macra Terror, and obviously and of course in the Wheel in Space, Jamie is wearing a completely different outfit. Like I said, if they do continue with, I hope they do continue more with this animation style, because I think this one kind of I think the animation on this sort of suits, it's held up better than some of the other bits of animation. I think, like, for me, it's up there with the animation they did for the moon base. I think that was the best bit of animation for Doctor Who that we've seen, in my opinion. Yeah, I think Macra Terror, even with the animation, it's still a really good story, really creepy, it's scary. The Macra in this one look amazing, it's really creepy. Troughton is on top form as usual. Everyone is doing a good job, and yeah, I do think, like, if you haven't bought this DVD yet, I would highly recommend getting it. It's worth the money, and and you can choose whether you want to watch it in colour or in black and white. At least it gives you the option. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Macra Terror. Will I do any more like this? Hopefully I do hope so, because again, I like talking about Doctor Who. And if you want me to talk about a certain story or an episode of Doctor Who, then, comment down below and I'll see if I can get to it. So, like I said, again, great story. If you haven't seen it, go buy it. If you like what you've seen, comment down below, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.